In 1985, something called the Plaza Accord happened. Now, 99.99% of Americans have no idea what the Plaza Accord was rather. And it's not because it was anything secret or clandestine or illegal or anything. It's just, Americans don't pay attention to stuff like this. And what the Plaza Accord was, it was a joint agreement signed between France, Germany, West Germany then, Japan, the UK, and the United States. And the agreement was to depreciate the United States dollar, which was extremely strong at the time. They were going to depreciate the US dollar by actively intervening in currency markets, international currency markets. By the way, it's called the Plaza Accord because they all met at New York City's Plaza Hotel, famous Plaza Hotel. And that's how it got its name. And there were some pretty smart people involved. James Baker was Treasury, and Paul Volcker was the Federal Reserve Chairman, later replaced by Alan Greenspan as the Plaza Accord was still ongoing. And they did it. I mean, they carried it off. It actually worked. It didn't work as well as they had hoped, but it did work. It did work. The only bad spot in here is that it didn't work too well for the Japanese. In fact, a lot of economists believe that the Plaza Accord was the main cause of the Japanese price bubble, the asset price bubble in the 80s. This is when Japanese assets were just wildly inflated, the price of them. And this in turn just killed them in the 90s. The 90s in Japan economically is referred to as the lost decade. So it didn't work out too well for the Japanese. But for everyone else, it worked out pretty well. You might ask yourself, okay, why are you telling me about this? What does it matter? Why? Well, the reason I'm telling you about this is because there is something called the Mar-A-Lago Accords. And, of course, this was reached at Mar-a-Lago. It's part of the Project 2025 series of white papers and essays and so forth that was published, prior to the election in 2024. The thing that our current president said he knows nothing about, he knew nothing about it. Now, in Project 2025, they ginned up the Mar-a-Lago Accord. Okay, and they based it, on the historical success of the Plaza Accord. So what's the Mar-a-Lago Accord? Well, it's a pretty complex plan to weaken, basically to destroy the United States dollar's value in an effort to bring about a larger domestic manufacturing industry. Okay, so the thinking is we'll take the dollar down really far, the value of it, which makes all the stuff we sell to other countries, makes it super cheap, and the manufacturing will just, manufacturing based in the United States will just explode. We'll have plenty of revenue coming in. Everyone will have a job. It'll be, to paraphrase, a golden age. And it will also rejigger the global trade relationships that currently exist. That's code for getting rid of China as a manufacturing powerhouse, a production powerhouse. Okay. So everyone's focused right now on the tariffs. It's a beautiful word, tariffs. What was it, a week and a half ago, the market lost $5 trillion because they were so frightened of those tariffs. I see they've gained it back because they now believe that the president is not going to follow through on all his huge threats, that the tariffs are going to be much less and applied to less countries than he's talking about. So the market's gained back a little bit after they lost $5 trillion. But I'm here to tell you that if you think there's chaos now in the market, and if you think that people are getting kind of gloomy, thinking about the future in terms of their personal finances, well, the Mar-A-Lago Accord is coming at you because it looks like, it appears that Trump and his team, they're at least loosely, following the strategies in the Mar-A-Lago Accord, and they may hew to those strategies with considerable diligence. No one's really sure yet. I don't even know if they're sure. So how would this work exactly? Well, basically, the United States is going to go to our biggest trading partners, most of which hold trillions of dollars of U.S. government debt. And they're going to get them to agree to sell those holdings, or trade them out for long-term treasury bonds. And if they do this, if our trading partners do this, then we'll give them special relationship status, and they'll get relief from the tariffs, and maybe we'll throw some other stuff in there. Maybe we'll make it easy for them to sell stuff here. Besides, taking away the tariff threat. So that's the plan. So if this plan works, if it works, then in theory, it's gonna weaken the dollar, which again, does wonderful things for the manufacturing that happens here, manufacturing and raw goods, agricultural staples. So it's going to weaken the dollar, and those will get cheap, so everyone in the world will want to buy them. It will trim the weight, the magnitude of the Treasury securities held by foreign players, and it will also decrease our trade deficit. There's a problem with this, though. The first problem is, unless there's a break in the time-space continuum that no one has told me about, this is not 1985. And it's not only 1985, but we don't have those big brains around. And we're not on the best of terms with some of our, quote, trading partners at this moment, and won't be for a while. So those are all problems, right? Those are all problems. The overall U.S. debt right now is around 8.5 trillion. Not with a B, not billion, trillion. And that's more than even the Federal Reserve holds. So that's a big chunk of our well-being there, right? And we're going to go to other countries and try to strong arm them into selling those assets. This is kind of a high stakes game here. The first question any logical person would have would be, okay, well, there's only so many potential buyers in the world that can afford this, right? So if you ask all the people with these holdings now to sell, who are they going to sell to? Who's going to buy them? I mean, it's not like there's thousands of potential buyers waiting. There are not. But let's say you were successful in doing that, which I think is impossible. But let's say you were successful in doing that. A huge effort like that, a coordinated effort, that would send Treasury bond prices, long bond, short bond, that would send them through the floor. And there's no action without a reaction. And when they go through the floor, the yields go up, way up. Now, all of a sudden, it costs the government and businesses and consumers a lot of money to borrow money. Right? I mean, that's the way it works. To say that it's going to work some other way is magical thinking. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about it because, as you know, we've been beating up our, quote, partners pretty good lately. Threatening them with tariffs, threatening some of them with takeovers of their land. So we've been beating them up pretty good. And now we're going to ask them to do us a favor. And when they do that favor, they're gonna take a haircut. They're gonna take a real big haircut financially. Okay? So we're going to ask them to do that after, we've been knocking them around with these tariffs. What do you think the answer is going to be? So, by the way, and if there's more. So let's say you were able to overcome all those obstacles, and it actually happened. Well, all they're doing is hurting themselves. I mean, they're helping the United States out, but all they're doing is hurting themselves, because that means everything they sell to us is a lot more expensive. So they're going to sell a lot less of it. So you ask them to take a haircut up front, and you ask them to take a haircut in the back end too. Who's going to sign up for that? It's not very appealing, is it? Right? I mean, it doesn't seem like good salesmanship. So that is the Mar-A-Lago Accord. And that doesn't even take into account, while all this is going on, right? We're also going to reduce taxes, right? Okay. So we're also going to reduce taxes, and that's going to be a massive hit. Okay. The planned tax cuts, as the Trump administration has explained them so far, are going to cost around $4.5 trillion. All right. Now you're going to immediately get some guys saying, well, okay, yeah, but we're doing all this wonderful stuff. We're overhauling the government, and we're cutting all the costs. Even the most optimistic forecasts, which are already falling flat, say you can't get there from here. Okay. The most optimistic forecasts say that we might be able to cut $2 trillion, over the next 5 years. The tax cuts will cost at least $4.5 trillion. The IRS issued a statement last week saying that on their trend line, they're already $500 billion short in tax receipts. Because since half the IRS got laid off, and the investigators and the tax attorneys, apparently a lot of wealthy people have decided they don't need to file their taxes anytime soon, if ever. That's $500 billion. They're already short. It's not even the end of the tax season yet. So that'll be going on concurrently with all this. And I don't want to be hysterical or alarmist, but this does not seem like a very good idea. And this is the idea that's coming right behind the tariff activity. I mean, really, you're playing with fire economically. You worried about a recession? Well, if this happens, if they actually start trying to implement this, you may not need to worry about a recession. Depression, worry about that. By the way, this also does not take into account all the things that are going to happen in the future that will affect the United States labor force and production methods and production prices, much of which we are not even apprised of yet. I'm talking about AI, robotics, etc. There's 26 million people that work in the United States in retail. And if 70 or 80% of those jobs go away, that's a lot of unemployed people, right? That's a lot of unemployed people. I mean, there will be people in the streets. It's a very, very risky thing to do. So we'll see, right? You know, a lot of times these things are pushed out in front of cameras. They're rolled out in front of cameras, and what actually happens is very much watered down. You know, whether that happens a week or a month or a year later. And someone, or maybe a couple of someones, hopefully, at some point is going to realize that, you know, what I described is true. This isn't 1985 anymore. The Mar-A-Lago Accords are not going to be able to do what the Plaza Accords did. It's just, you know, different situation, different time, different economic external factors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, fingers crossed that someone is going to say, hey, let's think of something else.